Namaste. In this second part of Retrograde series, I am going to talk in this episode on retrograde Venus. Having a retrograde Venus in the chart is in itself a challenge. Challenge in relationships, challenge in love matters, and also challenge in certain physical issues. However, whatever happens because there is a reason behind it. Jesus says to Peter, "You don't understand what I am doing now, but later you will." But everybody is not Peter, and so they continue to suffer. To understand Jesus, you have to first become Peter. To understand Krishna, you have to first become Arjuna. To understand Buddha, you have to first become Ananda. And so, even though retrograde Venus is a challenging position, still, if you face it with awareness, then you can finish it, and in the next birth cycle, you will not have this kind of retrograde Venus placement in your birth chart. In this podcast, I have talked in brief on certain aspects of retrograde Venus in the birth chart. So let's begin. मधुर मधुर नाम सीताराम सीताराम, मधुर मधुर नाम सीताराम सीताराम. What a beautiful devotional song. It simply means that the name of Sita and Ram is so sweet, so sweet. Madhur means sweet, Naam means name, and Sita Ram is the holy couple, Goddess Sita and Lord Rama. It is said that just by reciting the name of Lord Rama, many miseries and the feeling of being stuck is faded away, and you start feeling better and more better. Retrogression often makes one feel stuck, as if no progress is happening, especially when your horoscope is too malefic. In the case of a person whose retrograde planet is well placed, such a person also at some stage of life goes through a sluggish phase of life. So sluggishness comes naturally in the matters of the retrograde planet. We will now see the kind of sluggishness or delays one may have to face when Venus is retrograde in the birth chart. Retrograde Venus, matters of love suffer, challenges in relationships. The native also may have some strange thoughts about sexuality. He or she may opt for certain ways of sexuality that are not considered normal by the majority. The matters of the house ruled by retrograde Venus are delayed, and the native generally gets discounted results of the house that retrograde Venus rules. For example, if 7th house lord is retrograde Venus, then the person may face delays in marriage, or by chance if he gets married early, then either he may not be able to sexually satisfy his wife, or the wife is unable to sexually satisfy the native. When Venus is retrograde, early ejaculation happens, and the native finds difficulties in sexually satisfying his wife or girlfriend. Early ejaculation is a deep subject, and there are many astrological placements or aspects that signify early ejaculation. One of them is retrograde Venus and afflicted moon in the birth chart. When it comes to sex, there are many challenges that the person can face with this placement. early ejaculation or prolonged ejaculation, but the native is unable to feel the pleasure. He just keeps doing it like a robot. The partner may feel the pleasures, but the native feels absolutely no pleasures. This kind of situation is also a serious sexual problem, since the native keeps doing it but is unable to feel the pleasure. Retrograde Venus often brings many complications in relationships. However, the positive side of retrograde Venus is that it brings a certain unique artistic talent to the native. And if the horoscope is strong, then the native can become a celebrity with this retrograde Venus, though his or her personal relationships continue to suffer. Adolf Hitler had retrograde Venus. He fell in love with a woman, and yet he never was able to marry her. It was only at the very end of his life that he married her, and then they both committed suicide. Love is deep, but since Venus signifies happiness from marriage, this happiness is absent. The person continues to roam around the town in search of love, but all he gets is utter disappointments and cheating in return. In a way, retrograde Venus is indeed a very tragic placement, because the person never finds love, and when he finds it, it is too late, or it is not meant to last long. Retrograde Venus person should ideally not expect much in return. When you love, you simply love. Then you don't expect anything in return. To love is not to ask anything in return, not even to feel that you are giving something. And it is only such love that can know freedom. Freedom and love go together. Love is not a reaction. If I love you because you love me, that is mere trade, a thing to be bought in the market. It is not love. As mentioned in the horoscope of evolved souls, this retrograde Venus may bring much failure in their personal relationships. However, in their professional life, they rise to great heights. Some examples such as Adolf Hitler, Mariah Carey, Jodie Foster, Robert De Niro, Kate Moss are some of the celebrities having retrograde Venus. They all have done exceptionally well in their professional life. However, they suffered much in their personal relationships. When Venus is retrograde, sexuality is high. The sexual urge is high because Venus has slowed down. And when you slow down, you tend to think a lot about the matters that come under your domain. Similarly, when Venus slows down, the matters of sexuality, the matters of love, and the matters of art become more important for the native. And so the native goes through multiple relationships and sexual experiences in life. However, this placement also provides certain artistic talent that brings great fame, wealth in life. Retrograde Venus in a poor horoscope can also lead to sexual exploitation or child molestation experiences. The woman may have experienced certain horrifying incidents during her childhood days when she was sexually exploited by certain men in her family or outside family. Natives belonging to gay community or the lesbian community often has an afflicted Venus or Venus is retrograde. The question of whether being gay is good or bad is not important. What is important to note is that whatever sexual interest you hold in this human birth is just a continuation of what you were in your previous birth. So for example, if you are a gay, then it is not that in this birth you are gay. You have been a gay in your last birth as well. Always remember, life is a continuation. Nothing starts on a blank slate. Life begins on a slate that already has certain habitual and mental patterns of your past births. And so if you discovered that you are a lesbian or a gay, then do not feel awkward. You belong to this type of community from your last birth cycles as well. Wild sexual fantasies, infatuations, and weird ideas about doing sex is a peculiar sign of retrograde Venus. Adultery is possible with retrograde Venus. Extramarital affairs often happen when Venus is retrograde. Once it happened, some people brought a woman to Jesus and said she has committed adultery. It is written in the ancient scriptures that she should be stoned to death. What do you think? Jesus was sitting on the bank of a river. He must have fallen deep in thought. If I tell them to stone her to death, it will be violence. Then what will happen to Jesus' principle of love? And if I say no, pardon her, people will be angry. People will say, you are speaking against our ancient religion. You are going against our ancient scriptures. In reality, that is what people wanted. The people had come just to stone Jesus with these stones if he said to pardon her, because he is speaking in opposition to our religious scriptures. And if he says to stone her, we will kill this woman and then say to Jesus, what happened to your love, to your compassion? Where has your compassion gone? Where has your love gone? It was all phony talk. But they did not know what Jesus will answer. Jesus said, the ancient scriptures are right. They must be right. Take up stones and kill this woman, but let only those throw stones who have never committed adultery or who have never even thought of committing adultery. And the 5 who had stood before the villagers, probably all mayors and members of the municipal committee, quickly retreated into the crowd. Who wants trouble? The whole village knew, everyone's mischief was known, and if they hadn't committed adultery, they certainly had thought of it. To find a man who has not thought of adultery is difficult. One who has not been infatuated, who has not been attracted. All of them quietly moved back. Slowly, the people who had come with stones in their hands let the stones fall where they stood. And slowly, people began to disappear. Evening was falling. The sun was setting. Just as the sun set and it started getting dark, people escaped from there. The woman was left behind alone. The woman put her head at Jesus' feet and said, give me whatsoever punishment you want. I am an adulteress. I accept it. I am a sinner, and your compassion has overwhelmed my heart. Whatsoever punishment you want to give me. Jesus said, who am I to mete out punishments? Who am I to stand between you and your God? You know that what you need to do. You know what you need to do. And our God knows. I am not going to make any judgment. If you feel you have done something bad, then don't do it anymore. And if it feels alright to you, then continue. The one to decide is God. The final decision will be between you and God. There is no intermediary. Go now. Consider what he is saying. A famous statement of Jesus is, resist not evil. Not even evil. Why? If God is allowing it to happen, there must be some reason. Wake up within, live within, but the true thread of life emerges in you. Venus in itself is a materialistic planet, and on top of that, when Venus gets retrograde, then life becomes complicated due to several failures in relationships. It is indeed a challenging placement. However, it is not that in every birth you will have to live with a retrograde Venus. Mohan asked, what is the way out? How can one ensure that in next birth Venus is not retrograde? Mohan's question is straight, and the answer is also straight. By empowering your Jupiter, you can overcome the retrograde Venus. Jupiter is Vivek, conscience. The word conscience means a person's moral sense of right and wrong, viewed as acting as a guide to one's behavior. When you work on empowering your Jupiter by bringing more awareness to your being, then someday, in some birth, you will get rid of this retrograde state of Venus, and then the day will come when you will again start dancing, singing, and enjoying the many gifts of this human world. But this time, there is going to be no failures in relationships, but much happiness from relationships. There was a time when in some birth you had a very normal Venus. Then how come this Venus is seen retrograde in your current birth chart? You need to ponder over this question, because the answer is not on the outside but within you. My role is to help you turn inwards so that the greatest journey of your life begins. The journey within. Love to all those beautiful souls who have retrograde Venus. Mistakes happen, but committing the same mistake again and again and again makes you stupid. And so before it gets too late, come back home, wake up and start taking efforts towards turning the tables and raising the level of your consciousness. Albert Einstein says, no problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. This problem of retrograde Venus cannot be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. You have to raise the level of your consciousness, and the way to do it is by meditating every day, chanting the holy mantra Om Ram Krishna Hari, Om Ram Krishna Hari, Om Ram Krishna Hari, 20 minutes using a Spatik Japamala. Spatik represents Venus, and so by wearing a Spatik Japamala, you can tune the state of your retrograde Venus to a better state. After all, everything begins with you. When you start changing for good, the whole world starts appearing good to you. Rumi says, yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise, so I am changing myself. Focus on changing yourself. Let the transformation within begin. Remember, you have to walk the path. The Master will show you the way. However, it is you who have to walk on the path. Jai Sri Ganesha, Jai Guru. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha.